Good morning. Good morning. Andre, Dragon, Isaac, Mannix, how are you guys? Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. So not much surprise. Kind of talked about it a little bit on last night's watch list video. Not the biggest fan of tech here. And I've tweeted about it over the weekend. You know, I more so favor the IWM over the NASDAQ, and it just has everything to do with positioning. You know, obviously the NASDAQ has come from a pretty far away, but positioning is something that definitely has me a little bit more on edge when I think about tech, really. And not only that, price action. I can't remember a quarter where so many names got absolutely rocked on earnings or just gapped up and then sold off, right? Like if we were to look, there are so many names that have done a move like Groupon. So many. Oh, thanks, WLC. Yeah, I appreciate it. Hopefully you liked it. It was a good one. I thought the interview with Be the Story was really good, and then Chart Fanatics was awesome. Words of Wisdom was awesome. Riz was a super host, man. Chart Fanatics was how do I say it? It was very educational because it was like just going into setups. Wolf is a beast, and Wolf is moving more with the idea of their data center names. These things aren't really crypto mining companies anymore. Like that's just like a side bonus is what they do. Yeah, it could be that Tesla knocks me out as well, unfortunately. We start to break Friday's lows and to hold under. I will be out of there as well, unfortunately. You know, with that said, though, I do have a short and row block, so I'm hopeful that this thing can roll over some more and, just go ahead and crush that damn thing. Crush this damn name. MLR Tomato, how are you guys? Good morning. Milo, good morning. Noam, good morning. AMD's not overly extended. Yeah, it's still a little bit extended. AMD is, give me 1 second, I'll tell you. No, AMD's, 4 times its average true range from the 50. It's not bad. It's not bad. But, pullbacks into the 20-day again and more sideways while this thing just, lets the 50 catch up, I think that would be best. The real issue with AMD isn't AMD. The real issue with AMD is the crowdedness in the NASDAQ. Guys, if you can own the NASDAQ, you already own it, right? There's not a whole lot left in terms of people who can come on in and buy the NASDAQ. It's crowded as shit, and that this is all based on positioning. So, any piece of good news, and then the NASDAQ gets hit, you'll know there's probably some more unwinding to do, right? There will be a lot of people who have bought this recent dip in the NQ. So let me pull this up. So when we look at the NQ, right, and you had this dip, they bought the hell out of it. Then a few days later, when you looked at the NAIM, it was very crowded to the long side. Then you got a little bit bigger of a push, and all of a sudden positioning kind of unwound some from an NAIM perspective. But in terms of COT data, you're still very long. Yeah, I think here's the thing. It is a bullish consolidation on gold because the underlying trend is up, right? You've got the 200-day, which the underlying trend is just up. But this thing has been going for quite a while now, right? Since March of last year. So the underlying trend says up. The current consolidation makes you think that when the move starts to continue to go in whatever direction that is, right? More oftentimes than not, when you're above an ascending 200, it makes you think that the break of the consolidation will also be up. But I don't know. It's also consolidated a handful of times and broken up a handful of times. So at some point, the thing with gold is it's not very crowded. It was silver that was a bit crowded. So that kind of made me a little bit nervous. If that metal kind of starts to fail, then so do the others. But, man, how do I say this? The gold and silver stocks look pretty damn good and really strong. Like KGC, absolute monster. CDE, amazing. AG, AU, WPM, NEM, AEM. They're all in uptrends. Everything's in an uptrend. So can't complain. Makes you think the group is super strong. My thoughts on LITE, let's take a quick peek. There's no real setup here. It's in an uptrend, but where's the setup? Right? Like when you look at light, Hugh, okay, first look at like this most recent move and ask yourself, when has this name ever really just trended like this? And then zoom back on it and go, this is vertical, right? This is a move from sub 50 to 130, right? When you get a move like that, you need a whole new base, and a little 5-day consolidation just won't do, right? Just won't do. Like even on something like Roblox, this kind of action, not to say that they're going to play out similarly, but you get this long move up, you get this push on earnings, you get this pullback on a pickup in volume. So there definitely were sellers in here, and it's pretty damn extended. It moves 6% per day. It's not very extended from the 50, but it needs a whole new base sideways. How do you know this thing maybe doesn't start to play out like Roblox? Like there's just not much left, right? You get this vertical move on earnings, you get this pickup in volume in a fall, even though it finished green, and then you consolidate and then it breaks down. You just need new bases. On something like LITE, it's like you just missed the boat on 160% move, right? It now needs a new base and a long one. But most people hate waiting for it. They're just looking at the short-term underlying trend, and you're like, oh, it's up. Well, I'll agree with you, but do you expect this thing to move 160% again in a short move? Like, are you really thinking this thing's going to go to 300? Like, no, it's not. So you might as well get that out of your head. Look for things that are tight that are coming out of bases. A firm looks better, right? A firm's not even at a 52-week high yet. Could be a cup, building a handle. Only thing I don't like is this wide range bar, but it's done a really nice job bouncing back. It's trying to build a series of higher lows, right? Can this thing, just get going over like a nice little, somewhat of a flat base? 60 minutes kind of showing a little decent consolidation above 80, kind of above 80 good, below 80 bad. The longer this thing can go sideways here, like one more steeper higher low and then build out for like 3, 4, 5 more days, I think would be nice. You still own it from 69, so you bought it on 8.4. This was a pretty nice spot to have bought it. I think you did a really nice job buying this thing here. Over these little wicks. Very good. AMSC. Yeah, it's fine. It looks a lot like these other names for earnings, Shane. You just gap up on earnings, and then they've been doing nothing, man. That's the real problem. You've been good group, nice pickup in volume, nice sideways digestion, has allowed the 50 to catch up. I think it's fine, but I'm also not blind to the fact that since April, this thing has gone up 300%. This base could just keep on basing. It could just keep on basing, right? There's no real reason for this thing to rip another 300%. Not saying it can't happen, but I see the little consolidation, right? I'm looking at the close here, right? Could this thing just go through the close, the high volume day, and 56.85 and digest just underneath that level for a little longer and then rip? Yeah, that would probably be the best look. But so many names that have gapped up on earnings, you get this gap up on earnings, then all of a sudden you just kind of go nowhere. You just meander around and then don't really go. BWXT is one I could think of. Shopify is another one. They don't really do anything. They just gap up on earnings and they hang out under the close for forever. And, that's just some distribution taking place. Ideally, AMSC is a bit more of accumulation and then it'll go higher. But so these names have already made such massive moves. When I think about positioning and when I think about them needing brand new big bases, that's just kind of what my brain goes to. Very, very few names have acted like Reddit or A-Lab. Very few. In fact, those are like the only two I can think of. Everything else has gotten its ass kicked. I don't know that, here's the reality. You would think, right? There's not money leaving large caps. In fact, people are piling in on the long side on NASDAQ. What's happening is that too many of the people who naturally lose in the market, which are small and large speculators, are buying the hell out of something. But there comes a point when they have bought all they can buy. And then you're going to get this piece of good news that comes out and there's nobody left to buy. That's the problem. There becomes nobody left to buy. So small and large speculators, the people who lose most often, you'll get like this, like I said, a good piece of news and then it doesn't go higher. Why? Because everybody who can own it does own it. And everybody who can be short the Russell is short the Russell. So it's like, I'm not just trying to do the opposite for doing the opposite's sake. I just know that if they're the ones who lose most often, and then, a lot of names within that group, regional banks, biotechs, even like home builders, solars, right? Those aren't necessarily small caps, but you kind of start to think about the rate cut narrative coming in September, right? Everybody kind of knows it's coming and you think it might be bullish after that happens. I tend to think it's bullish before that happens because people are buying, knowing that narrative will come like, oh, these names should benefit when there's a rate cut. Remember, the market's forward looking. So, that's kind of why I think these names have been moving recently, which is biotechs, home builders, solars, and small caps. Yeah, I'm not going to judge gold too hard. Underlying trend is up. I don't see anything I necessarily love here, but the individual names have been super strong. Yeah, silver's another one of those. I'd have to check positioning, but gold and silver miners look pretty strong. I use just a 5-day, a 10-day, 20-day, 50-day, right? 200-day. And then I've got these 100 and 150, but that's just like a filler for like visuals, right? I don't really trade around those. So Rocket Lab seems ready after the pullback. Bless you, babe. Bless you. Yeah, I don't hate Rocket Lab. I just also don't love Rocket Lab, right? This thing has also made a gigantic move, right? This thing also recently just went from 15 to 53, right? During this bullish run. Could it go as a potential high type flag? Yeah, it could. It could. Then the next thing I would urge you to do is look at names within its group, right? What are the names within its group acting like? So, I could tell you a good one recently, MRCY. You've got KTOS, you've got AST, and this one's gapping down a little bit tonight or this morning. You've got ASTS, right? You got HWM. So you can just go down the list of like all of the aerospace and defense names to get a better feel for how the names are acting. It's been actually weakening just a little bit, right? Aerospace and defense names have actually been weakening up a little bit. So good to take note of that when you want to buy Rocket Lab and then you realize like, okay, this thing went to go push on earnings and then kind of failed. And then every single day since then has just been rejecting the 20, rejecting the 20, rejecting the 20, rejecting the 20, because now you're technically gapping down. So how about don't do any guessing until it can close above the 20? Seems pretty fair to me, right? Well, I'll tell you what, gold sold off and it once was a crowded short and now positioning is neutral. To be totally honest with you guys, if anybody was paying attention, I tweeted about it almost last month where I talked about MSTR. And if you looked at, and I've even shown the example, if you guys look at MSTR, right, and you think about this vertical move, and then months and months and months of lagging price action sideways below all-time high. And then eventually, breaks the 200 and see ya suckers, right? Now, let me just unlink these and go and show you guys MSTR from this other time frame. Now, these are using EMAs, but same thing. So tomato. So now look at MSTR from 2021. Is this price action a little bit reminiscent of what this looks like in here? Right? You go vertical, months of lagging price action, eventually break below the 200, right? And so MSTR has always led Bitcoin on the way up. It then has kind of front run Bitcoin potentially on the way down. Not going to say that this is going to play out just like that, but guys, when did the Bitcoin bull run start? It started when it bottomed effectively, and it bottomed at 15K. And then I talked about this in last night's watch list video. I challenged everybody to try and remember back to 2022. What was the news that Bitcoin bottomed on? Does anybody remember? Bitcoin bottomed on the fact that Sam Bankman-Fried was committing fraud through FTX, right? The worst news possible for the crypto space, and Bitcoin bottoms, right? And now, can you guys think of a piece of bad news for crypto? I sure as hell can't. Pro-crypto government, you got Saylor buying the hell out of it, you got all these companies doing treasury for Bitcoin, you've got the sovereign wealth funds buying it, you got maybe the US trying to accumulate some more through confiscation potentially, whatever that might mean. You've got a lot of people accumulating it, and then it's just not really going so much higher. You've got, you know, all these people doing now Ethereum ETF, and Ethereum is now crowded on the long side too, according to positioning, but it can get more crowded for sure. So you've got all that going on. So part of me goes, back in 2022, you had the worst news possible, and that's what it bottomed on. And here we are, 2025, after it's gone from 15K to 125K, and now everybody's like, it's going to $1 million. Diamond handing, Kathy Wood said, Tom Lee's in it, BlackRock ETF. And it's like, Jesus, dude, where is the bad news? And price action is starting to maybe say otherwise. So I don't know. But, you know, things don't top on bad news. They bottom on bad news. And things don't top on, you know, that bad news. They top on euphoria. And the news is pretty euphoric for Bitcoin. Not to mention, there's probably 0 people of the 1,600 that are watching right now that use Bitcoin in their daily lives, right? 0. None of us spend Bitcoin every single day. None of us do daily transactions in Bitcoin. None of us do anything unless you maybe trade it on Coinbase or wherever the hell you might trade it, right? But nobody here uses Bitcoin. You'd be lying. Don't lie to the group. Nobody here is using that shit. So K-Web, love the base. You know, this is a multi-year. K-Web's a multi-year base. Big base. You know, kind of looks a little bit like a lagging Futu. Futu looked a little bit like this right in here. And Futu ended up breaking out, right? You've also got some other names I'm interested to see go higher potentially, and that would be Alibaba. It's not really going yet. And Pinduoduo. So we shall see. High volume close on RSI. Yeah, dude, this looks like IDXX. This looks like so many others. So many others right now. Just look at a BWXT. It's just like the market's just not pushing these things, man. It's like, yes, I could find a bunch of high volume closes, but they're just not going. That's the problem. Like, they're just not going. Can I explain to you the Roblox short idea? Sure. The way I was looking at this was, you got this huge sustained move up. You got this gap up on earnings, but a big pickup in volume to the downside, still finished as a green day, and then just sat here and consolidated, effectively looking like a bear flag. And what happened was, on 8/12, I got short when it rejected prior day high, basically. And then the next day I added, and you'll notice that on 8/13, you know, the market wasn't really doing anything wrong. It was still just pressing higher, you know, or, yeah, 8/13. So let me pull up the QQQ for you. On 8/12 was the day that was kind of telling. So, okay. So let me just pull up, and this is where, like, you know, kind of spotting that relative weakness is important. So here's the QQQ, and then we'll go on a little bit smaller of a time frame, 30-minute. So on 8/13, this is what the market's doing. On 8/12, excuse me. And then on the flip side, here's 8/12 for Roblox, right? Hits prior day high, and then rejects. And then while the market's just ripping and roaring, this thing is closing on the lows. So at this point, I'm shorting this thing, right? As it's breaking down. And even in the morning, I was like, oh, maybe the market's due to come down here. And then it just started to turn back up, and Roblox went nowhere. In fact, it ended up closing on the lows. And then the next day, when the market finally had a little bit of pressure going down all day, look at the performance in a Roblox. So it kind of spoke to me that you already had some relative weakness in Roblox. And then not only that, I talked about Roblox kind of as like a inverse DIX. Obviously, the charts didn't play out completely similar, but here's Roblox. Here's a DIX. Sorry about the dogs, guys. All right. Let me close the door really quickly. So the way I kind of viewed it was like this. So Dix, you had this like steady downtrend for a little while, for a couple of quarters, since it topped on earnings, and then just started to roll over, and then you were living below the 200. You had a earnings report and then a push up from that gap down on earnings, right? And a high volume close to the upside. That ended up marking the low on a Roblox, on a Dick's Sporting Goods. Then all of a sudden, that over time, it ended up proving to be the bottom on a big pickup in volume below the 200. Then just the inverse of that to a Roblox, you get a nice steady trend up, you get the gap up, and then you just get a finished down, right, on a big pickup in volume. And then you started to, when the market was going higher, when the market was hitting all-time highs, when the market on days where it would be pressing higher, Roblox was just acting poor. And then even on a day in which the market was really pressing higher, you close in the red, so its relative strength line is falling. Then the next day, the market pulls back just a blip, and Roblox is losing prior day low, losing the 10-day, trying to break the 20-day, closing just above on news that they became investor grade, which is exactly why I avoid news, because the fact that news came out that they just became investor grade after a 200% move is totally laughable. Institutions don't give a shit about that note. Why? Because it's just gone up 200%. And who the hell do you think pushed it up 200%? Institutions. So you get a note that they're now investor grade on, what is this, 813. And you could look at Roblox. And when that note came out, this was the price action. And I started laughing. I even said in the room, like, guys, please don't listen to this. Like, it's a joke that you become investor grade after a 200% move. Like, someone needs to be fired, right? If you were going to call them investor grade, it should have happened at $50, $60, $80, $90. No, they do it when it's starting to break down at 125. Coincidence? I don't think so. I think it's just to sucker in some longs. Anyway, this thing ends up ripping on that news. Still closed red, still looked ugly, and then obviously complete inside day, a push, and then just a close at the lows. Now they're being sued. And yes, I got a little bit lucky that lawsuit happened, and then obviously it gapped down. So just a very simple thesis on it being a little extended, it looking like a bear flag. And then if you kind of just looked around the market, how many names have pushed higher on earnings and gone nowhere or given it back? Right, you've got a lot of names, believe it or not, that look like a Groupon. Right, there's a lot of names that have done this, where they gap up on earnings, and then all of a sudden they just continue to act weak and close lower. So that wasn't necessarily my thinking with the Roblox that it would happen that quickly, but I was able to limit risk on my entry, add to my winner, and then get lucky. Right, put myself in a position to get lucky. And sometimes that's half the battle with trading, right? Limit risk when you're wrong. Oklo I own as a long. I don't love it, honestly. Like, their earnings suck. I saw Dan Ives mention this name, that like he's got it in his list of 30 best stocks or whatever for AI or some effing nonsense. And to be honest with you, if I weren't still long this name from 58s, I would be out of Oklo, right? Or looking to short it, not out of it. I'm going to be using the 50-day as my stop on the remainder, but SMR kind of tells me that Oklo is going to end up going lower. I mean, this thing's starting a Christmas tree pattern. Failed on earnings, or gap down, then failed on earnings some more, and then we're living below the 50 and we're rolling over. And Oklo doesn't have a business, dude. Like, I keep hearing Oklo, and I'm long the thing. They by law can't even build a small modular reactor, guys. They don't have a permit to do so. So how they plan on making any money is, I have no clue. No. I see zero value in setting an anchor. Did somebody put you up to this to try and troll me or something? Guys, I don't want to. I like Brian Shannon. He's been around for a long time. He uses anchor VWAP in a particular way, but I personally, for myself, find absolutely no value um, using anchor VWAP. I find zero value in it for my own trading. So, what do I think of IRTC? No, a lot of names look like this, guys. So many. They're just not going anywhere. Not to mention this thing's gapping down 56, 55 bucks this morning. No. Guys, high volume closes, you think gap ups on earnings just are not working right now. They're just not working. Money's rotating to other places. Home builders, they're rotating to construction names, they're rotating to solars, they're rotating to biotechs, it seems like a lot of other places versus names that are actually gapping up on earnings. It's a very funky quarter. Very funky quarter. Thoughts on NEE? This is the bit of a laggard in its own space. Yeah, I don't know, dude. My thoughts on NEE are that this is very, very sloppy, right? Very rarely has this chart had nice linear moves. And I don't want to own a name that could potentially do this to me. Look at the daily. I would go fucking nuts owning that thing, dude. No thanks. Like, I want to find stocks that are known to move linear. Does this push out even higher? Give me a little high type flag and then maybe start to break out. That would be interesting. But like buying this thing and then when this thing's just on this crap, I'm good. Thoughts on PL? This one definitely looks interesting. Nice and tight. Yeah. Last in June, or sorry, in July. I'll have to look. Let me tell you. Hold on. I've got my stats, dude. Just give me a second. I'll give you a better example of what my win rate was from July. I only took 16 trades. Yeah, this is what I thought. Okay, so I went. I take that back. I did 15 trades. Won 8, lost 7, and I think that one of those was combined with another. So I actually went 8 and 8 because one of those is with Tesla. So I took a win and a loss there, I believe. So 50%. But if I go back to like the beginning of the year when I was taking far more trades, effectively this entire year, I'm closer to a 35% win rate. But typically my wins to losses is almost 7-1 in terms of size. Yeah, I saw FLYE in after hours on the day it squeezed, and I knew it would play out just like PTHL, but please leave those alone, man. They're not very safe unless you know what the hell you're doing with them. Yeah, Pony looks pretty decent. Again, just a stage 1 base. Who knows? Who the hell knows if they're going to go or not? Yeah, Ethereum's crowded on the long side, so it's not really something I want to get involved in until positioning gets better and we build a bigger base. It's already made a huge move. Right? It's already made, like, this is a big move for Ethereum. In 2 months, 70 something percent, almost 100%. But it's not bad. Could it just bounce and keep going? Maybe, but not something I'll be participating in. Breakfast. Thanks, babe. DOCS. Yeah, I mean, not special. It doesn't look like. I mean, Looks all right. I like the rebuild of the base above the 200 simple moving average. Could have been buyable on Friday, over that tight prior day high. Closed nicely. I mean, it looks all right. Doesn't look bad. Thoughts on USAR? This is a rare earth play, right? Boy, this chart's also sloppy, but yeah. It looks like, maybe just wait until 20 gets taken out. Thing with USAR, you're just dealing with that nice whole number. Good above 20, bad below 20. Yeah, bull. The only reason I think bull would go is because, one, it obviously built a whole new base after it got its ass kicked, but it's been tightening up nicely here on the right-hand side. Doesn't look terrible, I suppose. If Hood, which I own, keeps going, then I would suspect, bull might eventually get some love. HSAI, a lot like these other earnings names. You get the gap up, and then you kind of get the big old sell-off. I don't know. This chart's been super sloppy recently, but I don't know how I feel about that name. Lemonade. This name, yeah, another one of these. Don't know really how to feel about it. You had the high volume close, 47.93, and that was kind of the spot to get involved on Lemonade if you really wanted it. Here, I don't really see a spot for it. My thoughts on BMNR is that it's gone. You needed to buy BMNR when it was coming out of this little tight consolidation, right? The day was either on 8.6 or 8.8. You think about buying BMNR here. I don't think so. Not yet, anyway. Do I have opinion entering run today? It already made too big of a move on Friday. Think about the move it made on Friday. I like buying things coming out of tight areas, not after they make 45% moves in a day. So my opinion on run is that if you're in it, great. If you're not in it, you kind of missed it. So the job was to get involved in the solar names on Friday if you wanted to get involved in them. I think iron's a little bit sloppy to explode higher from here. It could, but just a little sloppy still. There's no real tight spot for me to buy it and limit risk. Carvana a little tighter, right up against the 50-day. Right up against the 50-day. Came on Friday. Friday was the time to buy it, as close as you could to the 50-day, and just use that as your guide. Yeah, I would just be patient on ZETA. This thing has shown you that it can go for a nice, long, clean, linear move. But, just let it reestablish itself above the 200 and, maybe take out the closing print on this day here. All right, this is like the fifth person that's asked about Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab doesn't look bad, but after earnings, this thing has rejected the 20 simple moving average a handful of times. I think it would be good to two things. One, let it get above the 20-day and close above the 20-day and take out a prior day high. And the next thing you could do with Rocket Lab is see how other stocks in the group are acting. Met coal kind of nasty. That's because they've got no earnings and sales. I've said it before. I saw people like, Ariel, what do you think about met coal here? And I said, am I really going to buy a stock on the 6th green day in a row? No, it's not going to happen. And it's extended from the 50. I mean, for anybody who's been live on stream and you've seen people ask me about this shit, it's just like This is exactly why you don't buy stocks extended from the 50 with crap earnings and sales. This is what happens. And then, and then people will buy it here and then they're like, oh, because it's breaking out. And then they'll get slammed on and then it'll bounce at the 20 and it'll just chop you up and maybe end up going higher. No. Why would you want to focus on an undercut rally on like a super laggy name? MLR. MSTR has been acting like shit for months, dude. Did you miss the whole part where I go back and look at my tweets from last month? The same way I knew MSTR has detached from Bitcoin. It did the same thing in 2021, man. It's just price action. It doesn't take a genius to say, oh, Bitcoin's at an all-time high. Well, wait a second. How come MSTR is not at an all-time high? Therefore, they are detached. It's not too difficult, brother, with your eyeballs. Are you really live? Will you respond? No, dude, I'm not live right now. What are you talking about? This is a pre-recorded session with charts that are moving in real time. Yes, of course I have a stop and play for TNA. Thursdays, Fridays low. What do I think about Futu? A little bit extended. Little bit extended from the 50-day. Yeah, can't buy it. Looks great. Can't buy it. BABA earnings on 829. Why do I feel like those earnings keep getting pushed back? What are my win rate? I mentioned it just a moment ago. I have like a 35% win rate. And my wins to losses in terms of dollar amount is 7-1. So when I take a lot of $1 losses to a lot of $7 wins. And I don't know if that's actually true all year long. Let me take a peek at that actually. That's just throughout the most recent period. So throughout all year, we are in August 18th. So I win $5, $5.4 for every $1 I lose. So I can have, a much lower win rate even and be fine. Yeah, it could be. FTAI doesn't look too bad. Still a touch extended from the 50. Ideally a bit more sideways, but looks fine. I'm just holding it for now. I don't really keep targets. I'm just going to let it work. I'm hopeful that the NASDAQ is crowded and that the NASDAQ wants to pull back, 5, 6, 7, 8%. And if it does, Roblox is heading lower. Yeah, I am considering flipping short on Oklo, just not yet. Yeah, just mentioned Carvana, Shane. I think it looks good. I think it looks good around the 50-day, nice and tight. Yeah, I don't really care to short Microsoft only because it's a whole lot slower. No, I really don't trade stocks that are more than 4. If they're like small caps, maybe I'll go to 5 times average true range from the 50, but that's about it. Milo, yeah, I just answered that. 5.46 is my profit factor. So I effectively make $5.46 for every $1 I lose. Yeah, VZ, we've got a lot of people in the room who who are newer traders as well. The idea is just to try and understand the concepts, right? How to find the names you're trading, how to get involved, how to improve your situational awareness. Like that's half the battle, honestly. Like it's oftentimes not where you buy, it's when you buy, right? And if you guys will remember, when you were buying, if you were buying in April and May and June, you were having a whole lot better of a time versus trying to buy in July and August, right? And again, it's not often the what, it's the when, but obviously having an idea of what is also very important too. And how do you find it? How do you determine if the group is strong, right? All those things are very important that, any new trader should learn. Yeah, this is also moving as a rare earth play. It looks pretty good. It's still just a touch extended from the 50, but yeah, green line breakout on Reddit, but it's already gone. It's already gone. Thoughts on iron? I already gave them. Think iron could go, but I won't be buying this year. Yeah, I'm looking for longer bases, or I'm looking for other sectors, right? Home builders is probably my favorite, and then TNA is another one. Short Caterpillar. Name's too slow for me to want to short it. I mean, could be. Netflix looked like it was trying to reclaim the 50-day. I would like to see it just get above the 50-day and then build a small little base. Solar names, they ran on Friday. I wouldn't be buying. Now, they could run some more, but I personally wouldn't be buying like a name like RUN today. And these could go, but they just moved 45% on Friday. I like to buy things, that are nice, coming out of tight areas. I only own CCL, and I've had it since earnings, since 626. So just letting it finishing consolidating here, and we're kind of waiting on its upcoming earnings. APLD gapping up on news. I mean, these are like data center plays. It's fine. I don't think it's entirely interesting, but it's been hanging out pretty well. High type flag. Any short ideas on Joby? Well, I'll tell you what, the other day, this thing got absolutely cracked and had no bounce on Friday. So, push. I'll be watching to see if pushes stay heavy. No ideas on it just yet. Yeah, I like stage one base breakouts, but they have to occur, on earnings. It depends when the break of prior day low occurs and on how much volume it occurs on. Yeah, no, I'm kind of leaving these. I'm kind of leaving these names alone for now, right? Could this be buyable off the 50? Yeah, it's possible, but aerospace and defense names have been strong for several months in a row now. I think they need to re-show some strength because they've been weakening a little bit. Thoughts on ACN? Garbage. CRM, another garbage one. I don't focus on names below the 200 simple moving average. Leave them alone. SMAs on the daily. Thoughts on Wolf? Extended. Very nice move, though. Very nice move. Yeah, 1014. I wouldn't be buying this thing from 5 and now it's at 1020s. I wouldn't be buying this thing today. Can I please show a recent trade where I lost and managed risk? Well, I still made money on this one, but this was a little give back. So I bought Hood at about 110 bucks. I sold some off at 114. I could tell you, hold on. I'd sold some at 114.26 on the 5th. What is this? The 11th. So on this day here, And then I closed the rest of it at flat 110, right back where I bought it. And then I rebought it the next day at 109 and a half. But the last trade where I actually lost was Tesla on 728. I also had a short try on Joby where I lost some money. 1733 on 811. What day is this? 811. So I tried to short it this day as a rejection of the 20 simple moving average, and I cut it the next day when it took out prior day high. That's it. In 1733, out 1755 the next day. So FTAI looks fine. It's just names that have been gapping up on earnings haven't really been going anywhere, but FTAI does have a setup. I don't really like the quantum sector at the moment, although QBTS does have the nicest setup of them all, but I don't really care. These things look like they could lose the 50-day here any day. So can TSS high gap fill at 850? I have no idea. How do I manage my stop losses? Sometimes just a simple low of day. Guys, I got to get ready for stream. I appreciate you guys. Tons of questions today. You guys are awesome. I will see you guys all bright and early tomorrow morning, same time, 7:30. You guys take it easy. If you haven't seen my video, Chart Fanatics or Words of Wisdom, they're both out on YouTube. Feel free to give them a watch. That'll explain a little bit more in the setups that I like to trade. So, and I will see you guys in the room or tomorrow bright and early, 23 hours from now. Trade them well. Get your week started off right. And I'll see you guys soon.